Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast is the football podcast. That's right, we've got football coming your way. Last week's games reviewed, this week's games previewed, predicted, and in the bank. That's right, all you could want from a football podcast right here. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Come on, people. Share this podcast around. That's the one that we like the most. If you've got a football fan in your life, send this podcast their way. They will love it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and apologies as it's been a couple of weeks, as last week there was, international football, so no one really cares for those particular nonsense breaks, do they? But we're back with Middlesbrough at Hull and Nottingham Forest-based nonsense to put into your ears. I'm not alone. I'm joined, as always, by Messrs. Moore and Woodmansey. How are we this week, chaps? Refreshed after our break, I dare say?
I was. I think we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit, I suppose. We'll wait no longer. We'll dive straight in. So obviously there were 3 games prior to the international break to go through. The first of which was Middlesbrough versus Sheffield United. I went into this apprehensive, as Middlesbrough were 3 wins from 3. Sheffield United were 3 losses from 3. They'd even lost in the Carabao Cup first round, and they hadn't scored since the opening day of the season. They didn't score in this one either, as Middlesbrough ran out 1-0 winners with a Tommy Conway strike on the 64th minute. It was quite a nice goal, actually. Matt Targett making his first appearance for the Borough since he's signed on loan from Newcastle United. Came on at half-time for Sammy Silvera, who was very lucky not to suffer a broken leg in the first half, as he was unceremoniously scythed down by Sidney Peck, who only saw a yellow for his absolute horror challenge. But Targett came on in place of Silvera at left wing-back in the second half, and it was his first-time ball into the path of Conway on the 64th minute that opened and closed the scoring. Should have been more comfortable in the end for Borough, as Delano Bergzog spurned not 1, not 2, but 3 glorious breakaway chances to extend the lead. But nevertheless, a 1-0 Middlesbrough win takes Borough top of the Championship, as the only team in the division with a 100% record from 4 games. So very, very nice. Predictions-wise, I had little to no confidence that was going to be the case. I'd gone for a 1-1 draw. Hansen and Barry as my goal scorers, so 0 points for me at all. Stuart gone for a 2-0 win. Whitaker and Hackney, sadly, didn't score. Matt went for a 3-1 win and did have Conway as one of his goal scorers. Sadly, his Azaz goal was never going to happen, as he doesn't play for the team anymore, which is disappointing. So yes, 0 points for me, 1 point for Mr. Woodmansey, 2 points for Mr. Moore. Second game of the week was attended in person by one of the members of the podcast, where Bristol City were taking on Hull City. So I'll pass over to you, Mr. Woodmansey, to talk us through this one a little bit.
Indeed. Long old journey down to Ashton Gate. But we started the day before. We took it steady. We had a nice look around Bristol, which was very nice. Fully recommend the Left-Handed Giant Brewing tap room if you're ever in the area. But yeah, the Saturday came around. The city seems to be well set up with the old park and ride and all the rest of it. That is until you get on the park and ride bus and it breaks down on the way to the ground. So that was fun. Thankfully, the driver did manage to utilise the old turn it off and turn it back on trick about 14 times. Then it eventually worked. So yeah, we finally got to the ground. Unfortunately, we should have been there in plenty of time to see like the players and all the rest of it. But as it was, we arrived probably about an hour, maybe just less than an hour to the game. So, if you've never been to Ashton Gate, they've got a really good setup around the ground. They've almost got like a bit of a food festival village kind of thing going on around the edge. So the couple of bars serving local beer and obviously your mass produced nonsense. About 14 different food outlets. So yeah, really, really good. Really nice feel to the ground. Recommend it. The only bit I wouldn't recommend is then watching your team get dicked. Uh, However, we'll get to that. So it started so well after the food and drink. Just inside the first 3 minutes, Akintola picked up the ball just inside his own half and played a quick ball over the top for Gelhardt, who controlled it and then chipped the keeper. So, like 3 minutes in, City were 1-0 up. I'm thinking, oh, hello, here we go. It's looking good. And then, pretty much from that point onwards, for the next 90 minutes, Bristol just took over. Hull sat deep. The midfield were kind of nowhere to be seen, and it put an awful lot of pressure on the defence. Cross from the right hand side, obviously being defended by our left back, none other than superstar former Middlesbrough loanee Mr. Ryan Giles, who possibly had one of his worst games for me in a City shirt, and that's saying something. But yeah, cross from the right was volleyed back across the goal and then slotted home by Reese on 18 minutes. And then another cross from the right on 32 minutes, headed back across goal, slotted home by Mehmeti this time, who always seems to score against us, by the way. So they made it 3-1 on 42 minutes. Reese robbed Charlie Hughes of the ball and scored pretty much unchallenged from that point. But the game moved into the second half, but was completely done really on 78 minutes. Mehmeti turned provider this time for Max Bird to rattle in his cross off the bar to make it 4-1. City didn't entirely give up, as they did score a consolation goal in injury time. Kyle Joseph scoring his first league goal, I believe. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
The guy 2 seats down from me went, Jesus Christ, it's going to snow on the way home. But it was set up by Ollie McBurney. One thing I would say is, even though we were kind of under it for a lot of it, it wasn't the worst game of football I've seen. They did play all right in patches. The away fans, it was a really good atmosphere. Actually, a little bit of swearing and stuff as you'd expect when we were there with the kids, but not too bad on that front. But the songs just start to finish. The away support was really good, and all of the Hull players did come across at the end properly, even though they just lost and probably were feeling pretty miserable, and did acknowledge everybody properly. The other news was that from the game was that Louis Coyle has returned from his hamstring injury. So he got about 20 minutes at the end of the game, replaced Cody Dramé. To be fair, I'd have rather Dramé had gone to left back and Giles had bogged off. But, you take it as it comes, don't you? But yeah, it wasn't not the greatest result, but it was a nice day out, just as is so often spoiled by the football.
Always nice to see youth get a chance. No? Okay. So yeah, sadly, a 4-2 win for Bristol City. Mr. Woodmansey went in great spirits and had gone for a 2-1 Hull City win. Sadly, no goals for Ndala or McBurney, but he does get a consolation prize of a Reese goal, so bags himself a point there. Matt had gone for a 2-1 Bristol City win, so a point there for the result. Sad times indeed. Twine and McCrory did not score, but Gelhardt did, so he gets himself a bonus point there, so 2 points for Mr. Moore. I also went for a 2-1 Bristol City win, so a point there for me. I also had Twine, but I had Mehmeti and Gelhardt as my goal scorers, so I get 3 points from that game. Ooh. Party time indeed. We go to our third and final game of the weekend, and sadly, it's not much better for Nottingham Forest versus West Ham United. Did you have the misfortune of seeing any of this, Mr. Moore?
Listening to and then some highlights. So basically, I think from the sound of it, Forest dominated through most of the game, but couldn't break West Ham down.
I would go so far as to say it was 80 minutes of one team in it, and then something just happened that just completely flipped it on its head. So
I think, obviously we'll probably talk about post that, but I think there's been a continual debate with Forest fans about how good Sangare is, and you saw the best of him in this game, as in controlling the midfield, picking up the ball from the centre defence, passing it around, being that link, and then you also saw the worst of him. And to say that players ghost past him is polite. It looks like he stood in treacle at times, and his wafting of a foot to try and trip him over is also kind of infuriating. So for the first goal, somebody just ghosted. I think, was it Bowen? I'm not sure if Bowen ghosted past him or the person before, and he wafted out a foot, and there you go, goal scored. So the turn of kind of things. Then he gave away the penalty that Paqueta scored, and then by the end of it, they were just chasing the game. So Wilson's goal was like a kind of bonus one because Forest were chasing the game. I think the kind of ugly side of obviously, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but wasn't my job to do. I think the kind of the failings of Forest kind of going from the end of last season, the Brentford game kind of sticky plastered over that a little bit. And the Palace kind of result was kind of like, there was a bit more going on there. But I think the West Ham one kind of showed up the faults, possibly, of what the owner thinks about Nuno and kind of thing, and his stubbornness not to play his new players. Weird substitutions, like went defensive when you're drawing 0-0, and then chucked on a load of attacking players to kind of fetch it back at 2-0. And you're kind of like, yep, too late. So 3-0 loss. Disappointing.
Obviously, we'll come to it in a bit, but it cost them more than just the 3 points on the day. More on that later. So, yes, 3-0 West Ham win. We all had varying degrees of Forest wins, so no one gets any points for the result. I had 2-0, Gibbs White and Callum Wendo. Stuart had 2-0, Gibbs White and Wood. Matt had 2-1, Wood, Gibbs White and Bowen. So it gets us up a bonus point for the goal scorer. All that means is after 3 games, Stu found himself 2 points from those 3 games. I managed to get 3 points from those 3 games, but Matt does indeed win the week with 5 points from the 3 games. So well done to Mr. Moore. Obviously, in the time we've been off, the transfer window has slammed shut. And it brought with it a lot of activity for kind of all of our clubs, really. I have Middlesbrough's summer transfer window roundup in front of me, so I will go through it thus forth. Obviously, we've already covered a few of these, but the first guy through the door was Alfie Jones, who swapped the amber and black for the red and white. Obviously signed from Hull City on a 4-year contract. It was followed by Abdoulaye Kante, central midfielder, signed from Troyes. Callum Britton joined from Blackburn Rovers to fill in at the right back spot. Next up was attacker Sontji Hansen, signed from Nek Nijmegen. And then these are all new ones that we haven't discussed yet on the podcast. They tied up a loan deal for Sverre Naipan, who arrived from Manchester City. He'd only just signed for City about a month prior from Rosenborg, and he's joined on a season-long loan. They also signed defender Adelson Malander, Charlotte FC. I think they're right in the middle of their season, though, so currently he's staying with Charlotte and will rejoin the club, or will join the club, I suppose, in January. The next one through the door has already been mentioned. Matt Targett was signed on a season-long loan from Newcastle and obviously popped up with the assist for the winner against Sheffield United. They added another striker in Kali Sen, who signed from Lausanne Sport in Switzerland. And then on deadline day, they added another 3 players. They added another striker in Slovakian long-term target David Strelec. He then went on to absolutely smash in the top bins against Germany in the international break, no less. So obviously that just gets everyone on Teesside salivating at the chops. They brought in a goalkeeper, experienced stopper John McLaughlin. That one was a bit of a one-in, one-out situation. They'd already agreed that Tom Glover could terminate his contract to move elsewhere, so that was kind of a ready-made replacement for him. And then finally, they signed Alan Brown on a season-long loan from Sunderland. He joined Sunderland the season before from Preston, and obviously was part of the reason as to why they went up last season. So that's the guys coming in. Heading out, we already covered the fact that Josh Coburn had joined Millwall. Rav Vandenberg has gone to Colne. As previously discussed, Finn Azaz made a £12 million move to Southampton. That can go to $15 million with add-ons. Neto Borges has joined Bristol City on loan. Marcus Force has gone to Bolton Wanderers for the season. Stuart will obviously be devastated that he can't pick him to score any more games. Law McCabe has joined Plymouth Argyle on a season-long loan, so he can get some minutes. They're very, very high on him in the club, so it'll be interesting to see how many minutes he can get under his belt. And then finally, Dan Barlasser. Never really happened for him at the Borough. He's gone on a season-long loan to Hibernian. That is the Borough stuff done and dusted, so we'll move over to Hull to round up whatever they've got done on the transfer deadline day. They were a bit sort of hamstrung with the fees that they could pay and whatnot, I believe. So was it as straightforward as most normal things are?
Well, we got 2 through the door on deadline day, both on a free. I was really hoping that Paul was going to cover this because you'll see why in a minute. So the first one was Darko Gyabi from Leeds, central midfielder on a free transfer. So again, having not had a midfield in Bristol, any recruits are probably gratefully accepted at this point. But the second one probably leads to a little more interest. Not because I know anything about the guy, just because it created a little bit of a laugh on the socials shortly afterwards. Now, bear with me, everybody. Strap yourselves in. This guy is called Amir Hadzayametovic. Within minutes of his photograph going on the website, somebody had then commented underneath saying, "What's his squad number?" And the admin from the Hull City page replied saying, "Don't know yet, mate. Only just learned how to spell his name." So that was a bit of one. But yeah, he's a defensive midfielder. He's on a season-long loan from Besiktas, but he is a Bosnian international. So I mean, I know nothing about either of those 2 guys, to be honest. But we'll see what happens. We've had an all right window considering we can't spend any money. It's just whether or not.
I'd say they've done remarkably well to say they've got so many restrictions on them that they've been able to bring in as many as they have.
But I mean, they've had to sort of employ the team that in the building to go off and find these players that are available on such deals and stuff. So it's not. I can't imagine it's been the most straightforward thing, but let's be honest, if they end up staying up by the end of the season and having spent no money but recouped money from players like Alfie Jones and whatnot, also as well actually on the money front, they issued a statement earlier this week to saying that they'd part of the debt that they had with a former owner, which I assume will therefore be Ihab Alam, has been turned into equity. So basically, he owns a small stake in the club again, but it means that they don't have that debt anymore. So it's swings and roundabouts in that regard. I assume that the unnamed man that's definitely not called Ihab Alam will be free to sell his stake at some point if he so wishes to do.
I'm sure we'll be encouraged to as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, can't imagine that there'd be 20,000 people shouting at him to do that every week, to be honest. But it strengthens the club's financial position because they have less debt, basically. So it's not bad news, is it?
I would say it's more a positive than it is a negative. Let's put it that way. So that just leaves us with Nottingham Forest to wrap up, and I think there was jokes potentially before the podcast that this could take a good couple of weeks, take us through to the next transfer window to round up. I believe.
I think I'm trying to remember where we got to last time. So I think last time we had literally only where we'd last talked about transfers. We'd only talked about Igor Jesus and Jai Cunha coming from Botafogo for we're not quite sure how much, but all of a sudden Mr. Marinakis is all of a sudden buying stakes in Botafogo. So to be part of our definitely not a multi-club thing, and we just bought Dan and Doi. So yeah, following that, Nuno definitely wanted Ahmad Traore. Well, we definitely didn't buy him. We bought most other wingers in the world, but didn't buy him. And apparently that was one of the hills that Nuno died upon. So let's have a look. So just before, I think they were kind of announced and shown off just before Brentford. We bought James McAtee from Manchester City for 30 million plus a bucket load of clauses would be the way one person described it. Buybacks, percentage of sell-ons, you name it. It's in the contract for the future. And then we bought another contentious one, Amari Hutchinson from Ipswich for apparently a club record fee of 37.5 million. Soon after that, I'm trying to think which order that came in. We might have signed Angus Gunn at some point in there as well.
He's already in the book.
He's already in the book,
from what I've seen. So we have discussed him already.
Good. Then we bought Callum Wendo from somewhere in France, under 23. So Arnaud Callum Wendo from Rennes. He's like a French under 23, under 21, under 23 international, played in the Olympics. Quickly followed by Douglas Luiz as one of the longest protracted transfers of this summer. That one's a funny one because apparently if he plays, I can't think how many games it is, but apparently the fee is only 25 million, which is half of what he went to Juve for. Then it all kind of went a bit quiet on the East Midlands front, shall we call it, for a few days, and Nuno Spies dug me out a little bit more. And then we bought Nicolo Savona from Juventus. He's right back apparently, but also can play in the centre of defence. But he's like apparently 6'4". He's like a proper kind of not that kind of typical fullback. And then, of course, not to be outdone with deadline day things, we signed Victor John from aforementioned Botafogo, third player through the door. Oh, yeah, and then Cubano, left back, left winger, wing back, also from Botafogo. He also went back on loan there, so he stayed there. Then, right near the end, we signed another winger because, again, like I said, we hadn't signed enough, of Dylan Bakwa from Strasbourg. He was one of another one of the ones that we've apparently been chasing all summer for around 35 million again. And then a sneaky one, like last minute, we bought Zinchenko. We loaned Zinchenko from Arsenal for the season. So those are the ins. The outs, let me have a quick look. Obviously, we mentioned Alanga going for around 50-55 million. Danilo going for around the same price to Botafogo, strangely enough. Ramon Sousa went to Palmeiras. Andrew Omobamidele went to Strasbourg for about 10 million euros, which is about what we paid for him. Obviously, to hook up with Hull's ex-manager Liam Rosenior. We forced we forced Lyon to honour their thing of buying Matt Turner, considering that was done by their previous owner. We also sold Carlos Miguel to Palmeiras for around 3-5 million, about what we bought him for in the first place. Lewis O'Brien went to Wrexham for around 3.5-5 million. Harry Toffolo left on a free transfer and went to Charlotte in the MLS. Jonathan Panzo stayed at Rio Ave, which is in the multi-club thingy, but he went on a free transfer. Josh Bowler was released and immediately re-signed with Blackpool. And I've never played a game, shockingly, for Forest. Marko Stamenic, who we bought last summer, has gone to Swansea for a fee, apparently around what we paid for him. David Carmo has joined Real Oviedo in Spain on a loan. Cubano, as I said, signed on deadline day, immediately loaned back to Botafogo. Omar Richards has gone on a loan to Rio Ave. Tyler Binden, I think we mentioned that earlier on, is on loan at Sheffield United. Eric Da Silva Moreira, who we signed last year from St. Pauli, he's gone on loan to Rio Ave as well. He's 18, like 18, 19 is a young lad. And here's the last one, just in case Hull wanted another kind of erratic, temperamental winger / striker. Emmanuel Dennis has been released by Forest. So
what?
He's now left the club, no doubt, with some big sacks of money on the way after collecting 2 or 3 years of sacks of money, and now just to get rid of him, I presume, a big old kind of, I presume, maybe a truck or kind of like a dumpster kind of thing, just to shovel the money into the back of his car, into the back of his take it home.
No, it was fine. He had a hookup with his mate Harry Arter, who just basically drove
this is where
the vehicle round that he had when he collected his his payout from him.
And then on top of that, it always kind of makes me laugh. It makes me think of men behaving badly when Tony's like, "I could have got GCSEs. I just forgot to fill in the form." Ramon Sousa was meant to have been joining Sporting, but somebody filled in the forms wrong. It wasn't Forest in this instance. That was Sporting's fault.
Did they have that guy from Crystal Palace who was working on the emails as well?
yeah, but he's been sacked from Palace and they found him a job at Sporting. So he is unfortunately stuck at Forest with nowhere to play. Like he's not in any of the squads because they thought he was going. And also Taiwo. There was a rumour of Taiwo going to Werder Bremen or Eintracht Frankfurt, I think. But unfortunately, neither of those came off. I don't know whether it's like injury related or stuff like that. It's a shame because he's a prime somebody who just whether it was loan, whether it was just to get, he just needed to get out of the club because he's now fourth on the list, basically. And unfortunately, it's not. It's not just with the injuries taken into account. I genuinely think he is the fourth best striker in the club now. I think the other two, the other two that they brought in are better than him, and obviously Chris Wood. We found out last year that he was better than him. So, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of business done.
There we go. So that is the ins and outs of all of our teams covered.
Well, not all of them.
So one rather big out to discuss, but I think we might have to just step away for a moment. Certainly for Matt to compose himself, as strap yourself in, as I believe he will have a fair amount to say on this one. So we're going to step away, take a very short break, but we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And just like that, that break is done and dusted. So we said there was one more out to discuss. Now, in the summer, both Hull and Middlesbrough took the decision to change their manager. Nottingham Forest did not, as obviously they had got into European competitions. So, good season last season. And then Nuno decided to open his mouth. And I don't think Mr. Marinakis was too appreciative of that. And now we've come to the impasse of all impasses. So I'll pass over to Mr. Moore, and he can fill us in on the remainder of the details.
I mean, did we cover it? Did we cover it when Nuno first started? I don't know. I don't think we did really, because it was a kind of bizarre kind of thing that he said in between probably us recording and the Brentford game. So he kind of went...
It was probably just a case of, it's just one of them random things he said, it's going to blow over.
Yeah. So I think, obviously, the first thing was he'd done one of those kind of Sky interviews where they sit on really uncomfortable looking chairs in the middle of the training pitch somewhere. And they seem to do that with all clubs because that's exactly what people want to see. And he kind of said, we're not where we need to be. We've not signed the right players, blah, 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 all that kind of nonsense. And I think everyone was like, okay then, Nuno, great. But I think then it started to look like it was being remedied because obviously they signed McAtee and they signed Amari Hutchinson pretty soon after that. And then kind of weirdly, and I kind of put it down to, Nuno's trying to deflect from the Palace game by doing something really weird, but kind of basically, me and the owner don't have a relationship anymore. We don't talk as much. We all need to be going in the same direction. Blah blah blah. All this kind of thing. And it was kind of like, right, this is weird, and kind of what's going on, kind of thing. And then it was kind of like, all right, well, he's won one. He's drawn a tough game against Palace. He still said some odd things, but we'll sort. There's this kind of, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting. This kind of thing. It'll all blow over, and then it kind of all went quiet. And in a kind of like really kind of unusual kind of thing, there was like an interview with Marinakis at the UEFA, the Europa Cup draw, and he was like, he'll stay in the job. He'll stay in the job. And then there's this kind of, we're going to have a meeting after the West Ham game. And then obviously they got stuffed after the West Ham game. And then apparently that meeting's never materialised. And what I can't understand is there's like little, I presume at some point all of it will come out, but there's like little droplets of things being put in there. Nuno wanted Ahmad a Traore from Fulham. What, a 29-year-old winger who's not been as good as what he was when he was at Wolves for 5 years now? He didn't want Douglas Luiz. All right, I don't understand, fair enough, he wasn't great at Juve last year, but he was pretty good before that. He didn't want Amari Hutchinson, but he wanted a winger. And I don't want to put this all on Nuno, but you're a head coach. You're not a manager. That role doesn't exist anymore. So you get given the players that you've been given. And objectively speaking, name me a bad player that has been signed for Forest in this summer. There's not, there's 16 clubs in the Premier League that would all like the players that Nuno's been bought. Have they come on time? No. But I think, when you start to look back and rationalise it, they were waiting to see which league they were going to, which European competition they were going to be in. Because one gets you 18 million, one gets you over 30 million. So I don't know whether Nuno's been... I'm not saying he's been plotting it since the end of last season, since the Leicester game, but it seems very kind of construed and kind of calculating on his part. I think the fact that Marinakis was like, what the hell's going on? It's like he didn't want to be told what to do by Edu. And you're kind of like, but that's the structure you bought into. Forest have always had a director of football. They've always had 3 or 4 people buying players. So I think initially I was like, oh God, what have we done? We've got rid of the best manager we've had. One of the better managers we've had in a while. It aggravated me the other day because I think it was either Sky or the BBC put up Nuno. He's got the highest winning percentage in the Premier League for Forest because that's when records began. And the really shitty thing was that Clough's season when he was he was absolutely pissed most of the time, and Forest were absolute dumpster fire because loads of players were out injured. But Clough's on there for his season. I was like, that needs to get in. Just take his name off. I couldn't give a shit about anybody else. Take his name off. Leave Dave Bassett on there because he's an absolute turd of a manager. But take Clough's name off that because that's not fair. Because taking everything else that he did in the previous 15 years in the Division 1, which, spoiler alert, is exactly the same as the Premier League. Just without fancy music and a song at the start of the day, so that annoyed me. I can see why Marinakis has done it, and I don't blame him for doing it because if you were the boss, would you want someone who works for you basically calling you out in the middle of a press conference in front of everybody? So I kind of don't have a problem with that. The 2 problems that I have is why was it done now? After I know we've got 14 players away with the international break, fine, but he needed to. It would have made more sense to let Postecoglou get his feet under the table and sort things out and work with the players that are at Forest. Why Ange Postecoglou? I don't get that one either. I don't think we've got the right players to play his system. If you look at the Spurs defenders, both of their main defenders are rapid. As you might have, if you watched the England game last night, Milenkovic, not rapid. Absolutely not rapid. The opposite of rapid. So I don't get that. I mean, it could be exciting. It could be an absolute disaster. I think the messages I got from my dad last night were, what have Forest done? That was his first one. Then, why can't we be normal? And I was like, well, we've had 12 months. That was relatively normal. And he's like, yeah, but what about the Leicester game? And then his last one was, the last 2 was, why him? Obviously, referring to Postecoglou. And then he was like, he'll be gone by Christmas, I think was the final statement on that one. So, yeah, just bizarre all round, to be honest, and very, very confusing, but also very, very typical for Forest, for everybody who's listened for the past 5-6 years, if not longer. So yeah,
you've got that weird cacophony at the moment, though, of like they've dropped, or he's dropped that decision at this time. But the ones that were the bigger names amongst the group of available managers weren't exactly going to be straightforward in any way, were they? Because I know that like Jose was banded around as well for a little bit.
I just wish if they were going to do this, and it felt kind of inevitable at the end of last season. I think if they hadn't qualified for Europe, Nuno would have gone. But apparently they're big fans of Glasner at Palace, but he chose Palace over Forest, where we got Nuno.
Can you imagine?
Oh yeah,
the absolute shitstorm that would have happened if they'd have taken their manager off them after they've stolen their European position and stuff like that.
Steve Parish would have been over his dead body, kind of thing, or over Mark Gahey's dead body that he sacrificed to keep Glasner, kind of thing. Poor sod. He sacrificed his career to stay there. So I think for me, it was, I think they should have done it earlier, and then they should have done it in the summer, because then they could have gone and got a Glasner or Marco Silva, who I like at Fulham.
Yeah.
I think he would have worked well at Forest. He's also managed at Olympiacos, so is au fait with the Marinakis' vibe, shall we say? And then I think we're just left with, we were just left with who were the best of the ones that are available. But so we'll see. I'm not convinced. I know you are, Paul. You're a bit more kind of on side, like kind of thingy with it. But I'll hold judgment until I give my prediction for the Arsenal game.
The one thing I will say is that someone actually pointed this out. I think I'd seen it in the comments on the BBC Sport page that obviously when it came out with the story. And I think universally, I don't think most of the fans were happy when Nuno got the gig.
Oh no!
When that first happened,
probably go back to the podcast that we did after Nuno was appointed, and I think negative football, containing football, don't go to win games might have been all words that came out of my mouth. So
that's obviously that'd be one thing that would sort of sit with me, is the fact that most of the fans didn't want him, and he ended up getting him back into Europe. So now whether that was on him, whether it was just that the players found a bit of a purple patch or whatever, but regardless, he did get him into Europe. So I think there's something to Postecoglou's like way of playing, and it's this thing of like that he always wins stuff in his second season. I know it was like he won stuff with Celtic straight off the bat, but you've got to be a pretty bad manager to go in at Celtic and not win something. So,
I mean, my tongue-in-cheek thing is if it's his second season, is it his second full season? Because there's no way he's getting to his second full season. If he starts this season, next season will be his first full season.
Yeah. Someone else obviously was straight in with the jokes of, he wins stuff in his second season, isn't it? Well, that's the championship title, like so. And stuff like that. So it was very, very funny. Yeah, I like you said that. Like you'll reserve judgment and we'll wait and see what happens. But I think it's of the candidates that were available at the time, I think it probably made more sense. You don't really want the circus that comes with Mourinho. And I think he was. I think it is probably. I think in the short term, at least, I think he'll, stabilise, and he's got European experience as well. So like when they go into the Europa League games, he'll know how to navigate that. But like you say, time will tell. So there we have it. So that is all of the news done. All that's left for us to do is to go through the 4 games that are to predict for this week. And we start, well, it's a bit of a baptism of fire for Mr. Ange as he takes his charges back to his old rival from North London, Arsenal. It's our first game of the week at 12:30, live on the TNT Sports telebox. It's these Arsenal taking on Nottingham Forest. Obviously, it's Mr. Muzz's team. He will give his prediction last. I don't see it starting well for him. Let's go there. I've gone for a 3-1 Arsenal win, sadly, on this one. I've gone for a goal apiece for Gyökeres, Madueke, and Eze, with Hudson-Odoi to get the consolation goal for the Forest boys. Stu, how do you see it playing out?
Not quite that bad, but I've got Arsenal 2, Forest 1. I've got Martinelli and Gyökeres, and then Wood for Forest.
Martinelli and Gyökeres. As always, his Wood is out. Go on, Matt. You didn't sound like you were particularly confident on this one.
I've gone 4-0 Arsenal.
Oh God!
I think if we're not careful, and he comes in with his attacking high line kind of thing, we could just be absolutely ripped to shreds. So I've gone Gyökeres to get 2, because he likes to punch down on poor defences. So that'll suit him. And Rice, no doubt, to score a worldie after duffing ones all over Serbia last night, and then Madueke as well.
Not confident across the board there. At the same time that the Arsenal are taking on the Forest, we go to Preston North End versus the Middlesbrough live on the Sky Sport Plus channel. Obviously, it's my team, so I'll give my prediction last. Let's go to Matt for his prediction for Preston versus the Borough.
I've gone for a 2-1 Borough win.
Okay, I like it.
Divine for Preston North End, and Conway and Whittaker for Borough.
Lovely stuff. We then slide over to Mr. Woodmansey for your opinion on Preston versus the Borough.
Preston are shit. Borough aren't. So there's my opinion. But I think the score will be 2-0 to Borough. I've gone Whittaker. If we keep saying his name, for God's sake, just one time, just score a fucking goal, man. And Conway.
He's not Joe Hendry.
Well, you never know.
It's a clean sweep, lads.
His goal celebration has to be like the swivel to camera. That's the...
That would be exquisite. It's a clean sweep. Yes, I too have gone with a Middlesbrough win. I agree with Matt. I've gone for a 2-1. We always seem to concede at Deepdale. Don't have a great record there. Don't really know why I've been confident and gone for a win. I've gone for Smith to score for Preston, and then I've gone for a goal apiece for Conway and the new boy Strelec. If he can shake Antonio Rudiger and turn him inside out before sticking him on top bins, I'm pretty sure he can do it too. Insert name of shit Preston centre half here. That's one for the post-production team. Our third game of the week takes us to Wales, where Swansea City are taking on Hull City. Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team, so he will go last on this one. I've gone for a 2-2 draw on this one. I've gone for Vipotnik and Benson to score for Swansea. McBurney and Gelhardt to score for Hull. McBurney, of course, with the old boy rule. Matt?
I didn't realise that was an old boy rule. I've gone for 2-1 Swansea win. I've gone for Ronald to score.
Hey, there he is.
As a as a kind of dedication to our glorious leader, because he definitely would have picked this guy because he sounds like Dr. Robotnik. I've gone for Vipotnik to score and Gelhardt to score for Hull.
Gelhardt for the Tigers. In person?
No. Bristol was
No.
Same journey again.
Bristol was at the end of the summer holidays, don't forget, for the school. So that helped a lot. Just bobbing to Wales for a casual Saturday afternoon is a little more of a stretch. I have gone for another draw. I have gone for 1-1. I stayed away from the Ronald and Vopotnik traps and went for Franco for Swansea and McBurney for Hull.
Very nice. And we don't even have to move that far for our final prediction of the week, as it is Swansea once again. They're taking on Nottingham Forest in the third round of the Carabao Cup. Obviously, it's Mr. Mo's team, so he will give us the final prediction of the week. I've gone for a 3-1 Nottingham Forest win here. I've gone for a goal for Inusa for Swansea. And then I've gone for first goals for the team for Kalimuendo, Bakwa, and Hutchinson. Stu.
I've gone for 2-0 Forest and both scorers Jesus and Yates.
That just leaves Mr. Mo to give us his prediction to end this week's pod.
I've gone for a 2-2 draw with Forest to win on penalties.
Oh, I love it.
I've picked Vipotnik to keep up his evil, devilish ways. And Stamanic, old boy rule.
Oh, did he play for Forest?
Yeah. Literally just said it in the transfer roundup. I know there was a few, but
straight over my head.
The rate that my team and your team are going, Matt, we're going to be another 2 seasons down the line, and everybody's going to be an old boy at this rate.
And your Forest goal scorers?
I've gone Jesus and Hutchinson.
We've got a little bit of similarities across the board there. There you have it. That is your 4 games picked, done, and dusted. All that's left for me to do is to say, oh no, sorry, I'm diving straight ahead here. I believe Mr. Woodmansey had something he wanted to bring up at the end of the podcast.
Just a little bit of light-hearted entertainment, loosely based around football and our collective hatred of Newcastle United. So this past weekend, I stupidly took part in the Great North Run for the second time, and they love a bit of promotion of the town, don't they? So they decided, in their infinite wisdom, to get 2 of the Carabao Cup winnings. I don't know if they've mentioned this, boys. By the way, they won the Carabao Cup trophy last year. Don't know if
really? Yeah. Never heard about it.
So they had Nick Pope and Jacob Murphy doing high fives for people at the beginning, right? If you went down one side, you got Nick Pope. If you went down the other, you got Jacob Murphy. Nick Pope was on my side. Could not resist. Everybody was sticking their hands up for high fives, and I just shouted at him, "You let loads past, Nick," because obviously lots of people getting by. Also, check out the pictures of Jacob Murphy's hand.
Yeah.
That guy took his job seriously that day and pretty much has a bruised right hand. His hand was like twice the size and purple. But yeah, the run proceeded to be horrendous. But my favourite part of it was there was a man just as we were leaving Newcastle, stood by the side of the road with a sign that said, "Run away from Newcastle faster than Isak did." The crowd, we were going uphill at this point. The crowd were a little bit silent. And you know what I'm like. The Tourette's came out. Can't resist. he'd clocked that I'd seen his sign, and I shouted at the top of what voice I had at that point, "Nobody's that fast, pal!" And it actually got a reaction from the crowd, so I was quite happy about that. So yeah, that was my two little nuggets from the weekend.
You love to see it. You love to see it. Obviously, it was the most protracted transfer saga of the summer. I mean, they can't be too unhappy. They've managed to bleed 125 million out of Liverpool for one of their players who didn't want to be there anymore.
I did see multiple people running in Liverpool shirts, and I did try and check to see if they had Isak on the back, which would have been absolute banter.
Was one of them JD McDonough from the previous night?
I mean, running in a Liverpool shirt was a risky kind of thing. You go through some sketchy parts, Once you get down to like South Shield and round there, whoa, no thanks.
It's all right. It's because next year they've changed the route, haven't they? So it goes through Sunderland. So,
the medals
too soon. Too soon, probably too soon. Yes. So there we have it. Thank you very much to these two wonderful gentlemen for taking me through their teams and giving you the information you guys need. Join us next week where we'll go through those particular results and we'll get some more predictions hot and fresh to you on the pod. Yes. Until then, it's tatty bye from us. So thank you very much and we'll see you next week.
There we go. What do you think to that? Another one done, another one gone. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening, big thank you for being here. Before you leave us, do please like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.